there, welcome back. Today I'm going to talk about Paprika and Dust Bunny. Two different films have the similar sense of fantasy and reality and childlike wonder. One's from Japan, one's from America. One's from the 2000s, one's from last year or this year, depending on when you get the release. And both are wonderful. Both are really enjoyable films. But I thought I'd put them together because they do seem to share a lot, even though they're in lots of ways very different. So Paprika was made by Satoshi Kon, who also directed Perfect Blue, Blind Actress, Tokyo Godfathers, and Paranoia Agent. Some of which I've seen, some of which I've not seen. But he's done a lot of really good work, which I've really enjoyed. Paprika I'd seen a long time ago, and I finally rewatched it, and I've always really liked it, but rewatched it, it's like, oh, this film is so good. So I'll start with that one. So it was based on a manga, and it's just, again, it's an adaptation of a manga. There's lots of stuff for adaptations, and it's the idea is going inside dreams. Now, in the 2000s, this was a popular movie idea because it started with The Matrix and like Dark City and Existence in the late 90s. This idea of virtual reality, then which Paprika takes some technology of virtual reality but takes it in its own direction. But it was more about inside dreams, like you're inside people's dreams. Around a similar time, you also got Femme Fatale, which also had this idea of inside a dream and dream logic. And then a few years later you got Inception, which also had the idea of a heist movie inside a dream. So it's a genre, an area that came of age over a decade and now is not done so much. I think it's because it's like it was done, really. It was like there wasn't much more after Inception that was available really to do, because everyone had kind of done the kind of the main bits, and now you need to kind of die away for a bit and come back with a new interpretation of it. But and it's a genre which I like, actually, and I'm quite happy to see. You also had Waking Life in this period as well with Richard Linklater, which I've also covered, which is a wonderful film. So it was something that had been done really well, and unlike most other things, it hadn't been done to death because there were so many terrible movies. There was a lot of good movies, but most of them weren't that commercial, but some were. But Paprika is a kind of Japanese version of it, the kind of more fantastical version of the science fiction idea. There is a science fiction idea in it, and there is like explanations of why is this happening, like why are dreams within dreams occurring, or why you're crossing over to dreams and having dreams infected by what seems to be an infection of some sort that's causing havoc within the dreams. And people are having to go into dreams to try and find out, because it's meant to be dream therapy. You're meant to go into a dream and help people get over a trauma that's affecting their waking life that damages them, because a lot of times in your dreams, things that are actually on your mind are going to be seen in metaphorical form. And anyone who has a problem and then realise after discovering what the problem is that your dreams were actually telling you this, but you couldn't figure it out because you were stupid. So dreams have that kind of element to them. I mean, this kind of thing of the threat of dreams are going on all the way back to Nightmare on Elm Street and films like that, and Dreamscape. But this one is a bit more artistic how it's done, and there is a sense of like the other films, like Dreamscape had technology. Nightmare on Elm Street's just pure dreams. It's based in horror more than anything. In the 90s and 2000s, it's much more technology generally based, and that kind of iteration was much more like existential than the horror stuff from the earlier period. And this film has the outside threat of someone trying to manipulate the dreams, but also the sense of what's going on in the dreams is revealing a lot about your character, and you're going from dreams to another dream, and it's not coming together in a logical way, but it's showing you things about your personality that you maybe try and suppress it. There's a detective who's going through these old movies and his dreams, and he's getting therapy from our lead character, and she's trying to go into dreams. She's got a character called Paprika who helps her, because in real life she's a very repressed woman, but in the dreamscape as Paprika she can be much more loose. So that's helping her in a lot of ways. So she's getting therapy on herself. But it's also one of those films that's just an explosion of ideas. It's like there's lots going on always. There's a sense of you're always moving in and out of dreams, and it has to be paced a certain way so it's not overwhelming to you. And it has to stop and come back and you see people in the real world and what their obsessions are and what they're about. There's an overweight character who is creating technology, and he seems like a big child who can't quite understand how it's been manipulated against his will and how he's kind of the danger, really. Like, he thinks he's helping, but he might be the villain by mistake. Not even knowing he's the villain, but his technology getting used by the people who have their own methods. And you've got lots of, like, spy movie things going on, but it's ultimately, that's just the kind of propulsion just to get into the dreams and get into the kind of weird fantasies of, you're seeing the fantasies of the villains, you're seeing the fantasies of your lead characters coming out in different ways, so you're getting to know them through their dreamscape. Which is a very Eastern idea, because, I mean, there's, in Eastern ideas you also get stuff like people fighting techniques in a martial arts movie tells you a lot about the character. And this one, what they dream tells you a lot about the character. Eastern is much more, less A to B to C, it's much more, we'll give you the basics of the plot, but we'll float around a little bit and we'll give you lots of interesting things. You can put them together yourself, and I prefer that view actually. This is more of a Buddhist kind of view of life, and this film has that, and it makes it for me much more satisfying than some and more of the literal dreamscape movies would have, because there is technology, but it also is your subconscious going through. But it's so well directed that you always know when you're on point. It's telling you stuff you need to know, but not always telling you it in a way that's so obvious to you that it's annoying. So it's just a wonderful film. The problem with talking about it is you don't want to ruin it. You know, I always try this thing where I try and kind of go to about the middle of the film if it's a film I'm scared of ruining, and say, at this point I stop talking about it. Like the overweight guy, what I've said about him, you know that from the first like 25 minutes of the film. Really, it's not a surprise. And everything I've said is kind of the first 25 minutes of the film, but there's a kind of sense of it's a film that reveals a lot as you experience it, so you need to kind of just go through it and enjoy it. So I highly recommend it. Go watch if you haven't watched it. I think a lot of people have seen it already, but it's one to go into and try out because it has some wonderful delights throughout it. Now I'll go to Dust Bunny. Dust Bunny is the Bryan Fuller film, and it's his debut, and it's very confident. I mean, I read he storyboarded the whole film because he's a writer who created the TV show Hannibal from the Thomas Harris novels. He did Pushing Daisies. He's an imaginative guy who's done a lot of stuff. He did the first season of American Gods before Neil Gaiman chucked him off for being imaginative. I think he did a great season, and then as soon as he left, the show went. I stopped watching after he left because it was like, well, what's the point? I was watching because I like his stuff. So this is his first feature film. He's meant to do other films that never come out, so he did this one, which does have influences of 80s films, like the Amblin films, and like it's original idea for the rejigging amazing stories that never came to be. But it's the idea of this little girl who's scared of a dust bunny who's eating her families, and she hires a hitman to kill it. Now, Fuller says it is based on that kind of 80s movie stuff. It feels very, very Asian. That kind of stuff you feel could easily be in a Takeshi Miike film. Easily. Or a Sono film. This is a premise that could be in so many like Japanese directors' films, or even like South Korean films or something. Like, it seems so obviously a kind of very Japanese style idea. And basically she imagines Mads Nicholson, who's the assassin, as being almost like a samurai warrior assassin. Anyway, so he seems very Japanese in a weird way, even though he wears a tracksuit and he comes from a foreign country, of America. He's got a hand up to Schooner Weaver, and the whole world is fantastical, and it seems to be influenced by lots of stuff. She thinks he fights a dragon early on, which is a very Asian feeling, like Chinese feeling thing, and it's all over the place in a good way because it's got all these eccentric characters. You know what they are, you know what they're about. They're all clearly defined in the way you would do in an American film, but the way they're used is very obscure the way you do it in a more Asian film. So you have this weird crossover of two different cultures in this film that's influenced by, on one hand, you have a American director and writer who's influenced by world cinema. So a lot of it seeps in there. And you have a leading man who's, from Europe, and your lead actress is from Scotland. Even though she's playing American to an American accent, there's a different feel to it that's not a very American film. And so I think it did better overseas than in America. I think America was like, this is weird. I don't think it did that great in America, critically or commercially. It did okay critically, but it was really weird. Because it doesn't feel like an American film, like, at all. One of the pleasures of watching it is it's not, you can feel it's not obeying the American rules of cinema. Of, you have to have a logical progression of things. It's like, no, this is based on the irrationality logic of a child. And what she sees and what she's seen. Literally, the villain is a dust bunny underneath her bed who will kill people. He'll kill people who are a threat to her. And there's lots of threats coming in, like Schooner Weaver's character. She wants this child dead because she knows who Mads Nicholson is and knows he's an assassin. There's all these threats going on to her. There's all these other people showing up who are mysterious, and it's like, who were her parents? How did they disappear? Why is she all alone now? Why does she need this assassin? There's lots of things going on, and it's about a child dealing with their own fear as well. So there's lots of themes here that is both American but also stuff you can see around the world. But a lot of the aesthetic and a lot of the over the top feel does feel very Asian. Like, they don't, Japan and a lot of Asian countries, they don't care about reality as much as America does. They're like, that's fine. The effects look weird and maybe a bit fake, but it doesn't matter because we understand it. A lot of the old art was based on not being realistic, so it doesn't matter so much to them. Like, one of the things I like about Asian films is sometimes they don't care about realism, and this film doesn't care about realism, so that's part of the pleasure of it, really. Okay, I'm trying to avoid getting into too much detail because it's a new film, but it is kind of wonderful. It really is wonderful. So I'd urge you to watch it because it is a delight. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you all later. Bye for now.